Hello! Welcome to one of our reading lessons. Today we're going to be talking about the skill of compare and contrast. I'm going to show you some motions. They're real simple just to help you remember compare and contrast. So we say compare and contrast. That's going to help you remember that when you compare, you're talking about how the two things you're talking about are the same. Compare is the same. When you contrast, you're thinking about how they're different. How are they different from each other? Compare, same, contrast, different. So you've seen this shape before. It's two circles drawn together where they kind of cross over each other and have a space. That's called a Venn diagram. To use a Venn diagram, think about two things that you want to compare and contrast, and you write how they're different on the outside and how they're the same in the middle, on the inside. So I have right here a giraffe and a zebra, just two animals that we can quickly compare and contrast some things about those animals. So thinking about a giraffe, what are some things about a giraffe that's different from a zebra? Well, a giraffe is tall, it has spots, and it's brown and orange in color. And a zebra, how's a zebra different? Well, a zebra is short, a zebra has stripes, and a zebra is black and white in color. So that's how they contrast. That's how they're different. Tall, short, spots and stripes, and then different colors. So they're different sizes, they have different patterns, and they're different colors. That's how they're different. We contrasted them. They're different. But some ways they're the same. So when we compare them, we can talk about how they're the same. Well, they both have 4 legs, and they both have a tail. So we compared them. That's how they're the same. So when you compare and contrast, same, different. You can compare and contrast anything in reading. You can compare and contrast characters in a story. You can compare and contrast settings. Maybe you read 2 books that are by the same author. You can compare and contrast how those 2 books are different, how they're the same. You can pick anything to compare and contrast. Maybe you can compare and contrast 2 totally different books. How are they the same? How are they different? And you don't always have to drop a Venn diagram every time you do it. You can do that in your brain, but the Venn diagram kind of helps you keep your information organized. So we're going to look at 2 books, and I know that we've covered fairy tales already this year, but we're going to do it again because this is a really easy way to help you compare and contrast. So I have 2 stories here. They're both fairy tales. This one is The 3 Little Pigs. It's kind of the typical story of The 3 Little Pigs. You know it well. And then this is called The True Story of the 3 Little Pigs. Now, these 2 are different. They're by different authors, but they're based around the same story. So I'm able to compare and contrast them. I can see what's different about them. I can contrast what's different, and I can compare what's the same. I'm not going to read both stories in this video, but I will put links to read alouds in the video description so that you can go back if you want to read the whole story of both stories. That's great. So this first one is called The 3 Little Pigs by James Marshall. This is more closely to the story of the 3 Little Pigs that you probably know. It's the story of 3 little pigs. So we have 3 pigs as the characters. The first pig, he finds some straw. He builds his house out of straw. And the wolf comes along, and the wolf's like, "Let me in." And the pig says, "No, no, no, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." So then the wolf's like, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in." And so that's what happens. The second pig finds some sticks and builds his house out of sticks. Guess what? The wolf comes by. He's like, "Let me in." And the wolf's like, "No, thanks." So the wolf says, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in." So far we've had 2 pigs, straw and sticks. Both of their houses have been blown in. Well, the third little pig finds some bricks, and he's like, "I'm going to build my house out of bricks." So the wolf's like, "Let me in." The pig's like, "No way." Well, the wolf said he'd heard that before, so he was going to try and trick the little pig to try and let him come in. Well, the little pig's a little smart, so he's trying to trick the wolf. So he comes up with all these different ways where he's going to try and trick the wolf, or he's trying to outsmart the wolf because the wolf wants to come in and eat him. And the wolf's like, "You know what? No, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm just going to go through the chimney." Well, you know what happens when the wolf goes down the chimney. In this story, he gets gobbled up. So that's the first story, the Three Little Pigs. That's one story. The story that you can compare and contrast that to is the true story of the Three Little Pigs. This one is a little different. This is from a different perspective. This one's from the wolf's perspective. And he's like, everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs. Well, I'm going to tell you my side of the story. So he talks about who he is and why he's made out to be the bad guy when he doesn't really feel like he's the bad guy. He said the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong, and the real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. So he's out of sugar, and he wants to go borrow sugar from his neighbor. His neighbor was a pig who had built his house out of straw. So he goes in, and of course, the moment he knocked on the door, it fell right in. And it turns out that his nose started to itch, and he felt a sneeze coming. So he huffed and he puffed and he sneezed. He sneezed a great sneeze. It blew the house in. He saw the pig lying there. He's like, well, I guess I'll eat the pig because, why waste a good pig? So he's feeling a little better. He still didn't have his cup of sugar, so he goes to another neighbor's house, and he rang the bell in the stick house, and nobody answered. He asked the pig if he was home, and the pig was like, go away, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin. So he grabbed the doorknob. He felt another sneeze coming on. So he sneezed again, and that house blew in. So he's like, okay, well, everything I was trying to make is going to spoil, and I'm getting full because I'm eating all these pigs, but I still need sugar. So he goes to the pig's brother's house, and he knocked on the brick house. He asked if the pig was there, and the pig was like, get out of here, don't bother me anymore. And the wolf's like, talk about him polite. He's probably got all this sugar. So he has his cold coming on again. He felt a sneeze, and so he sneezed again. And the pig kind of said something mean about Wolf's granny. And so he's like, I'm normally pretty calm, but when someone says something mean about my granny, I go a little crazy. And so the cops drove up, and it looked like he was trying to break in the pig's door. And the whole time he was huffing and puffing and sneezing. It was a real big scene. And he said the rest is history. The news reporters found out that he ate the two pigs, so they turned him into this big bad wolf, and they jazzed up the story with huff and puff and blow your house in. So he says he's framed. And in the end, he's like, oh, well, can I have a cup of sugar? So like I said, I'm going to put the links to these two in the video description so you can hear the whole story. So let's just go over just a couple of things. We're going to compare and contrast. Let's talk about how they're different. Okay, they're different. In this story, the wolf is the bad guy, right? He blows in all the houses. In this story, the wolf isn't the bad guy. He's just misunderstood. In this story, the third pig tries to trick the wolf into getting him to come in the house. In this story, I'm pretty sure the third little pig called the cops on him because he was trying to break in. They're the same because they have the same characters. The same events happen. The pigs build their things out of the same build their houses out of the same things, the same materials, and kind of the same deal happens. They're just from different perspectives, kind of the pig's perspective and the wolf's perspective. There's a sheet that I'm going to be sending that will have a Venn diagram so you can remember, compare and contrast these two stories. How are they different on the outside? Different. Contrast. How are they the same? And you could probably find a lot more ways that they're different and the same if you listen to the whole story. So I hope that kind of helps you understand our compare and contrast. Remember, compare, how are they the same? Contrast, how are they different? Happy reading!